Our topic today, we'll learn about security and passwords. A little bio on myself. I'm known as a PC guy because I had the personalized license plate, the only one in Minnesota with PC guy. I'm the son of John Kreuzer here at Carondelet. John's in the middle there. I retired a few years ago from 3M after 40 years at 3M in their information technology. I was an officer and still am an officer of the 3M Personal Computing Club at 3M. For over 40 years, we've had the club at 3M. In our peak, we had 1,200 members. So we were the largest club at 3M with 1,200 members. I do offer free computing help and consultation. I mentioned I'm thrifty, not cheap, so a lot of things that I'll mention, I'll talk about whether there's free versions of it or things like that, but some people will say I'm a little cheap. I'm not really cheap there. This is the topic learn about for March. It'll be on Facebook, which is a social networking. You've probably all heard of Facebook there. Why do 1 billion users use it? So there's 1 billion users out there. And if you're using it, what I found is a lot of people don't know that much about it. And they may be sharing more information than what they should. And so we'll talk about how when you post things, what you can do to protect your privacy, and we'll talk about tips on that. Also, Facebook just turned 20 years old, so it's 20 years old this year. It's the largest social media platform in the world, and if you figure in the world, we've got 8 billion people in the world. Well, there's 1 billion accounts out there, so a lot of people have Facebook accounts. Also, I mentioned here the Fix-It Clinic. Myself, along with my brother-in-law, Gary Marlowe, and my sister, Mary Marlowe, we put on a Fix-It Clinic, and the next one is March 25th. And there'll be sign up at the front desk for that next month. Also, I do publish out on the Carondelet website. So if you go out to the Carondelet or search Google for Carondelet, out on the Carondelet website, you'll see an entry for tech help. So on their website, I do have my calendar out there for when these presentations are, when the fix-its, and I also publish the one-on-one help when that's available. And I put the resources out there. So this meeting, along with past meetings, I've recorded, and I do have handouts, and I'll put both the handouts and the recording out on the website also. So if you've missed any of them or want to revisit any of them, you can go out there and you can watch the video recording there. Also have a FAQ, and there's an Ask a Question out on the website also. Okay, we'll get started. If you remember one thing, passwords are like underwear. This is kind of don't leave them lying around. Change them regularly, and don't share them with anyone. So whether it's your passwords or your underwear, we don't want any of that. I got a kick out of that when I saw it. And I got this graphic by just doing a Google search, and so I didn't create it myself. I love to reuse things. Okay, so let's talk about security and passwords. Security must be a combination of safe computing practices along with security products. And what I mean by that is there's no product that can or ever will provide complete security. You can have the best antivirus, the best things, but if you're clicking on the wrong things or don't change passwords and your password has been involved in a data breach, All those things can cause trouble for you. So you need to be careful and aware. And if you aren't, if you're not part of the solution to be secure, you're the problem. And hackers will end up breaking into your accounts and causing problems. I also mentioned here passkeys. How many people have heard of passkeys? Has anyone heard of? Okay.
I don't know what it is. I didn't understand when I read it.
Okay, I'll be talking about the passkeys because passkeys, for the most part, just came out about, well, 3 months ago or so. Apple and Microsoft and Google and that all came out and said, we're pleased to announce passkeys, and I'll go into the detail. But passkeys are meant to replace some of your passwords to make it easier, which is a good thing because everybody finds passwords and that difficult to deal with. The average person today has 100 accounts and passwords to manage. So I get people to say, no, I don't have 100 accounts, and I tell them, well, just start adding them up, and by the time you add them up, because if you've got an account for Lund's, and you've got one for Walgreens, and you've got one for CVS, and you've got one for your bank, and you've got Google, and you've got other financial, and you've got Social Security, and you've got, all of these passwords, we all end up with hundreds of passwords and accounts to manage. Unfortunately, most of the people that I deal with, and when I talk with them, I'd have to give them a failing grade of F for what they do today, which isn't good there. And part of that's due to, this is a graphic I stole off of the web too. This is a human brain. We've got the left brain and the right brain. What you know, what we all know, and then what we do. Well, we understand what good password behavior should look like. So if you've heard me talk before, or listened on the news, or read an AARP article, or any of that, you'll hear passwords and that being brought up a lot there. 59% of us know a secure password is important. 91% of us understand the risks of reusing a password from one site to another or using the same password on a whole bunch of different things. 2 out of 3 of us are fearful of our password being hacked or somebody breaking into our account. 75% of us consider themselves informed on password best practices. 72% consider their password sufficient protection for their online information. So we've all heard this word. Unfortunately, it hasn't sunk into the brain and actually doing things. So what does the average person do? We exhibit poor password behavior and habits. So 41% use a password that is easy to remember. They want to remember their password, so they use something that's easy to remember. You shouldn't do that. 61% use the same or similar passwords on multiple sites. Again, shouldn't do that. That's a major no-no, and yet almost 2 out of 3 people do it. 55% do it even though they understand that it's risky. And you'd think, well, maybe senior citizens are more vulnerable or doing this than younger people. But the generations, baby boomers, 45% of them use the same or similar passwords. 65% of millennials use the same ones. So they just don't do what they should be doing. And the number one reason people change their password is because they forget it. That's scary because banks and emails, you probably should be changing that once a year, if not twice a year, because there's so many data breaches. You'll see on TV, you'll see on newspaper where passwords have been gotten off of these various sites. And so you should be changing passwords there, but we don't. So this is information. This is a little statistic. We rely on personal information when we create our passwords. And I'll go and help people, and we'll maybe be setting up a new account for them, and part of the setting up the new account is they have to create a password. And I've had people sit at that screen or try and think of a password, and it takes them a couple minutes to think of what they want to put in the password. And that's not a good situation. They're either going to reuse a password that they may have used before, or change the order around a little bit, or put a number at the end. That's not good passwords, and that's not good behavior. So we all know better, but we all don't do some of the things that we should do there. Okay, why do you need a password manager? In the past, I mentioned I've been giving these talks at 3M and other places quite a while. Well, password managers came out years and years ago. The first one that I used was LastPass, and that was over 15 years ago. In the past, I recommended that people use a password manager. Today, I no longer recommend. I say you must be using a password manager. So I can't put it any more strong that you'd have to be using a password manager. Using some of these other methods where you have a notebook and you're writing down a password, or you have post-it notes. I work for 3M. I like that people are buying post-it notes, but that's not where your password should be. Some people will put them in a spreadsheet or a document. All of those really don't work, either for convenience or security or all kinds of reasons that we'll talk about. But it's not a good situation. You need a password manager. So what are some of the advantages of a password manager? Well, you don't have to remember the passwords. The fact that you don't have to remember means that it can be unique. It can be a random collection of letters and numbers and special characters that nobody is ever going to be able to guess. It's long, and it's what we call strong because it can't be guessed. It's not the name of a pet. It's not the name of a child. It's not the name of the street that you lived on. It's something that nobody, including a hacker, would ever be able to guess. The other advantage, or another advantage of a password manager, is it's available on all of your devices. So most of us today have more than just one device, whether that's a phone, a tablet, a laptop, or a desktop. It also means that it's available anywhere at any time. So even if I don't have any of my devices, I'm on vacation down in the Caribbean, I can use a computer, a friend's computer, or a computer in the business center at the hotel, and I can get on all of my different sites because I can get at my password manager, and it can put in the correct password to get me into the accounts that I have to get into. Another major advantage, these strong passwords can be generated for you. So you don't have to sit there and make up a combination of letters and numbers or a phrase or things like that. They can generate automatically for you. And they can help you change your passwords and track your old passwords. You can also document challenge questions. Some of the banks and email places, Google and Apple, will have challenge questions. What was your first teacher? What was your first pet's name? Things like that. Well, this gives you a place to document all that. They're safer than storing the accounts and passwords in a browser or any of the other methods that are out there. If you're looking to buy a password manager or just compare password managers, cost can be a consideration. I'm thrifty, I'm not cheap, I use a free version. So there's free versions that do everything that I need and that most people need there. The cost, if you are paying a fee, well then that can be a cost per device. Some of them have ads, some don't have ads. Some of them are only supported on certain devices or certain browsers. Automatic capture, where it'll capture and save your account and password and create new entries for you. Automatic replay, so when you go to a site or open an app, it can automatically fill in that information. You don't have to type it in. You don't have to copy and paste. You don't have to do things. So that's a blessing there. You don't have to spend all the time looking at a notebook or finding what you have there. They can fill out forms of additional information. They can maintain the history. They can support multiple identities. And by multiple identities, maybe you have multiple accounts, or you and your husband have it. You can each have your own entries in there, and one time you log in with this account using her information, and the next you log in with his information. Or I monitor my dad's and that. I have my dad's accounts. And so I can switch back and forth very easily between the different accounts. Also, they usually support two-factor authentication. That can be facial recognition, fingerprints, things like that in there. And they work with the applications. If you have a tablet or a phone, automatically putting in stuff. They let you import passwords into them. So if you are going from one password manager to another password manager, you don't have to re-enter all the information in again. They let you export data, so it's important to back up your passwords, and just in case something happens, and then you can have a backup. And you can share passwords either with other people, or maybe it's documents or messages. This can be important. A digital legacy. This is if you have your information in a password manager and you get hit by a bus. Well, if your spouse has the information, they have access to it. If they don't have that, how are they going to know where you put your passwords or how you coded them or what post-it it's on, things like that. And then a last one is secure file storage. So usually these password managers also have options maybe to store your will or passport or other confidential information. Okay, what I use a package called, sure.
This is really the first time I've heard somebody talk about a password manager. I mean, there's like Norton, you know, that you use for security. But I don't know, has anybody else heard of a password manager before? I've heard it here. You did this before.
Yeah, you may have heard of a package like LastPass. Okay, it's been on TV. There's ads and that. Password managers are built into a number of packages and operating systems and things like that. So if you have some of the Norton suites, they come with a password manager. If you have Comcast and its antivirus, some of those will come with a password manager. Even if you're using like a Chrome or any browser, if you've ever entered in your account and password and then seen a box that pops up that says, do you want to save this? That's a password manager. So there's major password managers, major players in the field, and then there's literally 1,000 options of how to store your accounts and passwords. Yeah, so it is important, and that's why I say people must really use something, because if you're not doing it, your chances are you're writing it down on a notebook or a piece of paper, and if you put it in a notebook, the problem there is people don't want to change the password because then you either have to scratch it out or you've got multiple deals. And is this an uppercase or is this a lower? Is this a number? Is this an I or a 1? Or you run into problems.
I've done all that.
Yeah. Oh, we all have, because like that brain there, we all know what we should do. We don't necessarily do it. And it used to be people would say, well, I'll get around to it a little bit later. And they just kind of put it in the background and don't do anything. And so I'm saying, now's the time and to be protected. Yeah.
I'm guilty of that, because we did this program about a year ago, and I paid, and I never did anything. So now I'm back to make sure.
What I find interesting is my kids, I generally go to my kids because they're, they're the generation. And I've never even heard them talking about it. And they help me with passwords and all kinds of stuff.
The first slide with the brain there.
Yeah.
The millennials are the worst group there because they don't think anything bad is ever going to happen to them. And if you've seen some of my other presentations on scams, the millennials are the ones that get scammed the most. They don't lose the most money. Seniors are the ones that lose the most money because millennials don't have money. So if somebody breaks into their account, what are they going to get? $10 that they have in their checking account, or they don't have the money that seniors have. But it is very important. Today, people are storing their passwords and doing things in a lot of different ways. And that's where, if I had to grade them, I'd grade most people with an F, with a fail, because it doesn't work. And it's not so much that you may get hacked, because the chance of you getting hacked or your account getting broken into isn't that terribly great. But if you don't manage your passwords, you're not able to get into your accounts. Or you go on vacation, or you're over at a friend's or something like that. Wouldn't it be nice if you had to log on to an account and be able to do things? And people go, well, I can't. That's in a notebook, and that notebook is back on my next to my computer, back in my apartment or in my home. And with the multiple devices, phones and tablets and that, it just becomes unbearable to do this. You need a manager to help you.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. This particular information is, so Bitwarden as an example of a password manager, information is going up to the cloud and then back down to the devices. If anyone breaks into Bitwarden or that, the information is encrypted, so all they'd see is ones and zeros. They'd never see a number there. You do have to put your trust in the package, but if you're using name brand packages and that, their security is more secure than your bank. So if you called into Bitwarden, in fact, I had a friend, well, it actually wasn't Bitwarden, it was LastPass. He had an account with LastPass, and he had started putting some information in there, and then he forgot about it for a while, and so 6 months later, he was going to go back in, and he couldn't remember his master password to get into LastPass. And he contacted LastPass, and he said, I'd like to reset my password. And they said, reset? There is no reset. You cannot reset your LastPass password. You forget your password. Nobody at LastPass, nobody can get that information back. Your only option, if you don't know the password, is to start over with a brand new account. And he was mad at LastPass. He says, what kind of a company is that where they won't let you reset? And I said, well, if you can reset it, that means that somebody over in China or Russia or India, if they had your personal information, well, what's your social security number? What street do you live on? Well, I can get that information. Then they could reset your password to your bank and get into your bank. So companies like LastPass, no, that's their security. They recognize the fact that stuff is locked down, and that's the way that it works. Okay, we'll continue on. If there'll be time at the end, hopefully, to get the stuff there. So in the past, I did recommend LastPass, and the reason was it was the best package out there, and I started using it 15 years ago. Well, actually more than 15 because it's 18 years ago now. But then in 2021, they started charging for it. You had to buy a subscription if you wanted to use it on multiple devices, like on a phone and on your laptop. That was considered two devices, and they wanted to charge you for that. Well, again, I'm thrifty. I'm not cheap. Bitwarden is out there, and Bitwarden gives me everything that I need there. And so they have a free version, and the free version, this is where you can get it, and it has all the features that I need. You can store an unlimited number of packages, you can sync it across all your devices, and almost all the features that I talked about on the previous screen are available on the free version. Bitwarden offers native apps. So I think one of your questions was, some people will use the stuff that comes with Apple. So Apple or the Chrome browser can collect your accounts and passwords and store some of that. The problem with that is I have multiple devices. I have an iPad, which is Apple. Well, if you use like the Apple Wallet and store your information and passwords and stuff like that in there, I can't go to a Windows machine and access my wallet. So if you want something that crosses all platforms and you have all devices and different operating systems, that's an important consideration for what password manager you use. And like I mentioned, Bitwarden works on Windows, Macintosh, Linux, Android, and the Apple iPhones and iPads. Bitwarden browser is supported by Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Opera, and Safari, all the major browsers. You can enable multi-factor authentication, or you can tie it in with an authenticator app with the free version. You don't have to upgrade to a higher one. Also, I'll be talking about Passkeys in a minute, and it supports Passkeys. When I did move from LastPass to Bitwarden, I exported my LastPass accounts and imported them into Bitwarden and was up and going in under 2 minutes there. Bitwarden does have a premium version. I'm not recommending it because most people can use the free version, which is what I use. It provides additional space out there to store things like wills or passports or things like that. It also has some additional features for Vault Health reports and emergency access. I mentioned that access part. Well, you can set up an emergency access, but I don't need the emergency access. In fact, I just assumed that it wasn't available because this way nobody can reset or change my account except me. Okay, we'll do a little bit of a demo here. Let me go over to the Chrome browser and let's go back here. So what I've done is I have loaded Bitwarden in the Chrome browser, and if you've heard the term plugin or extension, it loads as a plugin or an extension up here in the toolbar. And it may be hard to see on the screen, but there's a little shield icon, and then there's a little padlock there, and that padlock means that currently Bitwarden is locked. So if somebody stole my laptop, they wouldn't be able to get in and see all my passwords. It's locked. The way that you unlock it is if I click on here, and then I go in here, and let me put in my master password. And once you put in your master password, then you can get at your passwords. You can see what you've got set up. And there's you can put in credit card information. So I think we've all become frustrated when you go from site to site and having to re-enter your card number and your expiration date and your code. You can store that all. And so it's a case of you can put in the numbers, you can store all that information in here, and it can automatically fill that in when you go to any site and have to put in that information. So it'll let you do that. This particular account, you'll notice it says like test card. This is a demo account I'm using. This is not my passwords. You're not going to see my passwords. You're not going to see everything there. But this I'm just using for this demo here that I'm doing. So yeah, you can put in cards. You can also put in what's called identities. And the identities, I shouldn't have clicked there. Let me go back here. I go here. The identities are, so you go to sites and it asks for your name or your address or your phone number or your social security number. It can fill in a whole bunch of fields that you're constantly having to re-enter. You go out to a new doctor or you're putting into an admittance form or stuff like that, and you have to look up all that information again. Well, you can set up an identity and have it automatically fill that information in for you. So in addition to the...
Have they preset the choices?
What's that?
Like you have logins, identities, are those preset in the program?
Yes, so these are presets. You can put in any number of credit cards. You can put in any number of identities. So identities on my account, I have my dad's, and I have myself, and I have my work, and I have multiple identities that I can use depending on what addresses I'm using, what telephone I'm using, things like that. So this is just an additional thing to make your life easier when you're going from site to site and having to put in information.
Can you just expand a little bit on what you're talking about, the definition of identities?
The identity is just basic information, your name. So how many sites do you go to and it asks you what your name is? First, last, middle, that kind of thing. Well, you can put that information in here and not have to type it in when you go to another site. You can use this. You can say, I want it to automatically fill in with this information. Does that make sense? Or? And I'm not going to go, I mean, I could talk more, but the main thing is the passwords. This is just an added bonus where you aren't going to have to put in stuff if you put this in. You don't have to set up identities. You don't have to put your credit cards in here. But if you want to make your life easier and that, you can put the information in. But to use the passwords and login, you don't have to do that. Okay, so you can store this other information, and it has all these other features in here. We won't go into all the features because it could take hours and hours to do that. But it does have a vault, and this vault is your passwords, your accounts and passwords. And if you have a bunch of them, you can break them up into folders. So you can organize them any way that you want to make it easier to do things. You don't have to organize them if you don't want. And so for this demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out to a Starbucks. And I could go through here. I think Starbucks is in my dining. If I go out here, here's Caribou and Starbucks and dining out here. But I don't have to do that. I can go up here to the search, I can start typing star, and there's Starbucks. So this is the entry in the password manager that's been created for me to get into Starbucks. And one of the things that I can do here is if I do this, I can launch Starbucks, launch the Starbucks site just by clicking on this. You'll see down here, it'll open up the Starbucks. It'll automatically put in the fields there. So put in this account, put in the password in here, and all I have to do is click on the sign in, and I'm in Starbucks. So that's how easy it is to use a password manager, automatically filling in fields, making sure that it goes out to the right website. So if I'd gotten an email from Starbucks saying, there's been an extra charge on your Starbucks card, please click on this link, the password manager knows the correct Starbucks site. And if you went out, if you clicked on that link, it wouldn't automatically fill in the account and password because it knows it's not Starbucks. So this icon you're talking about?
Well, the one just before this you went to.
So this is Bitwarden itself.
Right. And then there was a little icon that you went to the Starbucks.
I had gone up here and I had started searching. So if you have hundreds of accounts or that, this is one way to find it. Once you find it, I just clicked on this. Yeah. So this launches it because I have put in the password manager, the password and that for Starbucks, and I've told it, or it's recorded where the Starbucks website is. It automatically took me to that website, filled in the fields, and got me into the Starbucks site there. If I was
I don't know the icon, so I appreciate it.
No, and that's a good point because you also have options up here, like if I wanted to manually copy and paste, if you're familiar with copying and pasting, a username or a password, I could manually do things, but I prefer to do them automatically and have them automatically filled out. So this will automatically fill it out and get me there. Okay. And this entry in the password manager for Starbucks, if I click on this, I can see this is the information that the password manager is stored on it. A name, it stored the username, it stored the password, it stored the website to log on, what folder it belongs in. This is where if there were challenge questions, I could document those challenge questions. In here, I could put any more information. Also, this is tracking when I created that account, when I last changed the password history. These are the last passwords that were used. So you've got a ton of features. We won't go into all those, but you don't have to use all these other features or even look at it. Most people just use it to automatically fill in their passwords, and it's going to automatically fill in your password. You aren't going to need a notebook. You aren't going to need a Post-it note. You put it in there once, and it's in there. Yes?
So when you scroll down to the bottom, that was the password that has the dots right there?
Those are the pass.
Look at it.
You could, yes, yeah, you're right. What I'm seeing down here is the history. So those are the last two. The one that's currently active is up here. And I can click on the eyeball. There's my current one. If I wanted to see if this password had been exposed on the dark web, one click here and it'll tell me this password isn't found anywhere on the dark web. So it's a good, and you can see there's no meaning at all to that password. And how did I get this password? I didn't sit down and type this in. If I wanted to change this password, I'd go into edit mode. Once I go into edit mode, I can go to this password field here, and now here's an icon to generate a new password. If I click on this, it's telling me, well, you're going to change your password. Yeah, we do want to change it. Now, this is a password generator. I can pick the length that I want this password. I can pick whether it's upper and lower case, whether it has special characters, minimum number, and then it has that. If I wanted to generate a different, I say, oh, I don't like this. Well, here's a better one. But you can generate these, and they should have no meaning at all to you, because that means that a hacker or anybody can never guess it. Doesn't have a pet's name in there, doesn't have your street address, doesn't have a child's name or your name spelled backwards. I could go through 100 of these, and every one of you would be using one of those, because people have built meaning into these things. So this password generator is here for you to use at any time to change your passwords and that. Okay?
And it's the same feature if you want to change your username. Because I see the icon.
Yeah, this it's a case of we haven't talked about it, but you can also, when if I was going for the first time into the Starbucks site, it asked me for a username and a password. A lot of people use the same username or an email address. I used an email address there, but a lot of sites you can use a random generated deal, and you can put that in. And the password manager is now managing that, so I don't have to remember what characters it is. I don't have to print it out. I don't have to do any of that. It's there, and it's long and unique and out there. Okay. And so I launched Starbucks. Here, let me log out of Starbucks here. So I launched Starbucks from Bitwarden, the password manager. But I could have, let's do this. Let's go back to the Google search here. Oh, well, let's go back. Let me go back here. Let's go to the Google search here. So if you use bookmarks or you use the Google search, so if I search in here for Starbucks, and I click here, and here's the link to the Starbucks website. If I click on the Starbucks website, it takes me out to the Starbucks website. It hasn't logged me in because I haven't clicked on the sign in. If I click on the sign in up here, you'll see it automatically fill in the fields. All I click is sign in, and now I'm signed back into Starbucks. So no matter how you get to a site, the password manager can fill in the fields, can help you. And you see I didn't have to type in upper and lower case passwords. I didn't have to copy and paste anything. For this site, it was just bing, bang, boom, and I'm done there. Okay?
So when you were talking before about there were other bits, what other sections that you could use? It sounds like the fill in the launch feature is a good one to use.
You could organize your sites using those folders, and you could use that to start up and that. So, but if you do use bookmarks, I use a variety of things. You can operate however you want there. The tool can make some things easier for you, if that makes sense there. So you can organize it any way that you want and that. Okay. And this I just mentioned in here, Bitwarden has a number of settings, like most applications. There's probably 50 different settings that you can set for Bitwarden, and these are just some settings that I recommend changing. The vault timeout, when it goes to sleep or locks the machine, you set it, I set mine to an hour. Clear the clipboard. If you do copy stuff into the clipboard and you may not want a password staying in that clipboard, so that the next person using the computer or that might hit a paste and they might see what your password is. You can have it automatically clear the clipboard. The autofill, if you wanted to autofill like I was doing at Starbucks, you want to make sure that the box is checked to autofill when you go to the website, when a web page is loaded there. And then also, if you have a phone or a tablet, turn on the fingerprint or the face login capability on your phone or tablet. That way, you won't have to put in your master password to get into Bitwarden. You can use your face or a fingerprint to get in. Also, what it means is, and I recommend people do that, because if you don't use it that frequently and you forget that master password, how are you going to get it back? Well, if you put the Bitwarden password in Bitwarden, you can go on your phone. I can open up the Bitwarden app, use my fingerprint or the face, and get into Bitwarden and see what my master password is. So it's kind of that way to recover your password if you somehow forget the master password. Because master passwords are like anything. You don't want to keep a master password, the same master password, for 10 years, so you may be changing it every year. Well, again, you want it something that you can remember. That one you have to remember, so you can do things to make it easier. Okay, let's see what time we're at. We'll cover passkeys pretty fast here. What are passkeys and why you need them? Well, passkeys are a new way to sign in that works without passwords. So after I've told you that you need the password manager and you need all this and it's a hassle there, now I'm telling you the future is passkeys and you won't have passwords. Unfortunately, it's going to take a number of years for all the sites to get converted over to support passkeys. But there's a number of sites that support passkeys today, and that's why you should start using them today and eliminate the use of passwords on these different sites. So passkeys, instead of using a password, are going to use the biometrics like your face, your fingerprint, a gesture, or a PIN that's set up on your device. And that device could be a laptop, could be a tablet, could be a phone, a number of different ways there. It's a standard that is promoted and created by Google, Apple, Microsoft, and the World Wide Web Consortium. So they all have heard from people how everybody hates passwords and we all have problems and hackers get in and what can you do to help us out? Well, this is what they did to help everybody out, is they built into all of these different operating systems and every device, the new device that's out there, has the capability of using passkeys. And passkeys consist, and this may confuse people, but you don't have to really understand it. But it is made up of 2 cryptographic keys. One of the keys is stored up at the website of the, let's say you're going to Google, your Gmail out there, that's stored up at Google, and another key is stored locally on your phone or on your tablet there. So there's 2 separate keys. To get into your account, you need both of them. You need both of them to get into the account. So one is stored up at the server, one's down locally. when there is a data breach and a hacker gets their hands on this website's public keys, unlike a password where somebody over in Russia or India or that can start using your password and get into the account, somebody who breaks into Google and gets the public key for your Google account cannot get into your account because they need your phone that has the other half of the pass key down here. So unless they have your phone, they aren't getting into your Google account or whatever Amazon account or whatever you've set up passkeys for there. So it's completely locked out without the two devices. Yes?
I've got it on my phone. I drove to my sister's house. She has portable Wi-Fi, but I signed in on her iPad. It's not going to have my other password.
Yeah, I won't go into too much detail, but that's all covered. Everything's covered. You can use any device. I could have gone down to Barbados and logged in the business center on a Windows machine or stuff like that. When I attempt to log in on that machine down in Barbados, that machine down there does not have the other half of the key. So what comes up is it comes up and says, if you want to use Passkey to log in to the Google account, what you do is you just push the button. What comes up then is on the screen, if you're familiar with the little dots and dashes, QR codes, a QR code will come up on the screen. I take out my phone, I hold it up there, don't even have to take a picture. It now connects the passkey recognition on my phone through this device up to, let's say, Amazon. Everything matches, lets me in.
Because of your face?
Well, I would have had to unlock on my device to get into my device to use my face or my fingerprint here. But it's going through this device, getting me there. Now, if let's say it was your sister that we were going into, if you want to, at that point, you can authorize that new device so that they don't have to use this.
Oh, no, she doesn't have those security.
But if you wanted to, you can create a key on that machine so that you don't have to use this in the future. So it's all taken care of. This is every question that you come up with, every scenario of how to get in, it's all covered. You can get in and you can, you're safely protected there without having to put in a physical password. And we won't look at the video. The video was 1 minute long. There wasn't a whole lot in there. It was just saying passkeys are universally created. So it isn't a concept created by Apple or Microsoft and that. So passkeys can help you get around the issue of having to synchronize passwords between devices, because you can use this phone and you can authorize this other device and you can easily do those things. And this is just giving a deal. Say you normally log into your Google account using a smartphone, but you want to log in using a laptop that you haven't used before. No problem. Even if the passkey isn't synchronized on the laptop, as long as the smartphone is within Bluetooth range of the laptop and you have the app on the phone, or scan it, it'll take care of it. All right. I was mentioning app on the phone. Erase that from your memory, because there isn't an app on the phone or any of these devices, because it's built into all of the operating systems. Apple built it into the operating system. Android devices have it built into the operating systems. Windows has it built in. All of the current versions of these operating systems, it's built in. Yeah, and this mentions for security reasons, just like you were talking about. Maybe you don't want your sister to ever be able to log in. And I've got relatives like that too. The passkey isn't transferred from your device to their device. You're just using your device to authorize getting in there. If in the future you want to authorize that device, you can authorize that device. But if it's a one-time login or a computer that's shared, you wouldn't want your stuff on there. Also, it's a case of no biometric information ever leaves your device. Instead, it's used to unlock the passkeys that are on the device. The system requirements, because this is a new standard that's been developed by all of these major players, you do need Windows 10 or above. You do need a Macintosh Ventura Plus or above. Chrome, the more current. If you have current versions of all these, it's automatically there, and that. And Android and these other keys. It works with all the supported browsers and that out there. So it's a standard that's out there. Now, many well-known websites and apps have already supported the passkey, and that includes things like Adobe, Amazon, Google, Apple, GitHub, PayPal, TikTok, Nintendo, WhatsApp, Shop, eBay, Uber. A lot of these places use it, but there is a website out here, and this website, if you go out here, gives you the most current list, and there's probably 500 sites and apps and that support passkeys right now.
If I go and get a passkey from Amazon, can I then go into my one password and just delete all that information?
You can, you don't have to necessarily, and so you don't have to change all of your devices and attempt to get rid of passwords, because it's a case of you can choose not to use them to connect in, but it's up to you if you truly do want to delete stuff out there. Okay, so this if you're interested in which sites currently support passkeys, this is the list. And so there's a number of places and banks and financial institutions. It's a cost for them to go through and change theirs. They will be changing. So almost all the vendors will be changing. It's just right now some of them have not changed yet. And you can actually experiment if you are a little leery of passkeys. I list a website. You can go out to this website and you can. It shows you how passkeys work and different things there. So you can play with it. You don't have to put in any of your account information. You don't have to do any of that. You can just see how it works there. And I mentioned here, if you're ready to take the plunge, for a lot of people, the first one that they do is their Google account. Get that set up, but start with one, and each one is separate. So if you set up your Google account, that doesn't mean that you can get into your, if I create a passkey for my Google account, that's a passkey between my phone and Google. If I want to go out to Amazon, I have to go out to the Amazon site, turn on passkeys, and now create a passkey between that and my phone. So each site is going to have its own passkey. It's not like there's one passkey that's used for every site. That would be dangerous, and so you don't have that. Not only has Google made it easy, but there is documentation. When you go through and make the change, it'll step you through because they realize there's billions of people around the globe that are going to be doing this. And obviously they want it to work for everything. I mentioned here we're a long, long way from the death of passwords. So this will replace a number of them, but it's going to take time there. I mentioned Bitwarden earlier. Bitwarden is a special password manager. It also supports passkeys. And so it can sync passkeys from device to device. If you have multiple devices, you can use Bitwarden to sync it there. If you're an Apple user who only uses Apple stuff, Apple also, the Apple Wallet is where your passkeys can be stored. But you could also use, again, I have an iPad. Well, I don't want to put it in the Apple Wallet because if I put it in there, it's not available on all my other devices. Well, I can put it in Bitwarden and it's available on my iPad and it's available on all my devices. So there's ways to have things synced there. These are some additional tips. I'm not going to go through the additional tips here because some of them I've covered before. And you can look through here, never reuse passwords and generate long, unique. Well, if you're using a password manager, a lot of these things are going to be taken care of for you automatically. And we don't want you to be like this guy where forgotten the passwords or things like that. With a password manager, with passkeys, you can regain some of your sanity of passwords there. And then I link a couple of links in here that talk about the best password managers and the best free, and PC Magazine and CNET Magazine recommend Bitwarden. So they recommend, or I recommend what they're recommending and have used for a number of years there. Okay, questions, comments? A lot in there, and if you haven't, most haven't heard of password managers, I'd certainly start with a password manager and start getting your stuff in there. And then passkeys, again, you don't have to change them right away, but when you have time, start setting up some passkeys there and things like that. Yes?
That I use my thumbprint. Does that mean I would need to put password manager?
The thumbprint is a way, if you're going to use passkeys, would be a way to authenticate that it's really you, to connect to the passkey and give it in. If you're using a password manager, I can use the thumbprint to get into the package Bitwarden instead of having to put in a master password to get into Bitwarden. So when they talk about on here biometrics on your tablet or on your phone where you're using your face or a fingerprint or that, that's to get in to use a service on that device, whether it's Bitwarden or Passkeys or your bank. I have like Fidelity. Well, the way I get into Fidelity is even without the passkeys, I was using my finger to get into Fidelity there. So those are more secure than a password because a hacker breaking into Fidelity does not have access to my fingerprint, which is only on my phone here. So they can't get in. Other questions or comments? Well, we all want to be safe, and we don't want you using Post-it notes or Notepad or what frequently happens to people is they put it down on a piece of paper and they haven't used the account in 6 months or a year, and now you ask them, well, what is it? I don't know. I forgot where it is, and the pile of paper isn't the same way as it was 6 months ago, and then they either have to create a new account or have to try and reset that account to get a new password there, and that's no way to manage your accounts there. And so these password manager, and then in the future the passkey, and the passkey, once you set up the passkey, you're not going to have to change your password every year because there is no password to change every year. Unless you get your fingers cut off, you may have to rescan another finger if you lose a finger, but somebody's not going to get into your account because there is no way for them to impersonate you or enter that information to break into your account.
Can you just
Okay. Well, thanks for coming, and next month it'll be on Facebook there. Thank you.